July 7th, 1997.
This rock right here, from top to bottom, which seemed so large yesterday, is really about a foot high.
Suddenly, Mars does not seem so far away.
I'm ecstatic, absolutely ecstatic to report on behalf of the entire Mars Pathfinder team that we are on the surface of Mars and we have received our first telemetry from the spacecraft.
Suddenly, a distant planet has familiar landmarks.
The couch in the background, which yesterday looked like it was sitting on this rock. But now, obviously, it's way into the background.
Barnacle Bill is a very highly textured rock, and tonight on Mars, the rover will be analyzing what the rock's made of.
Just a little way from Barnacle Bill is Yogi, and off on the horizon, the Twin Peaks. All of this, and the Sojourner vehicle, has moved less than a foot and a half. Tonight, Mars rising, the red planet, as we never dreamed.
This is ABC News Nightline. Substituting for Ted Koppel and reporting from Washington, Forrest Sawyer.
These days, outer space is starting to feel awfully crowded. So much is going on, from Earth all the way to Mars.
2, 1, 0, and liftoff of Columbia with a...
That the launch of the Space Shuttle Columbia 6 days ago barely got any notice at all. In case you haven't heard, the astronauts have been running a series of tests on metals that could lead to improvements in everything from computers to golf clubs. At the damaged space station Mir today, a cargo ship successfully docked, bringing badly needed repair equipment and fuel. The most difficult repairs to the station come at least 10 days from now, when the two Russian cosmonauts conduct a lengthy spacewalk. And then there is Mars. It feels special to us because it's the planet most like Earth. So the very thought of a microwave-sized vehicle crawling around terrain that looks a little like Arizona without any cactus, driven by engineers on Earth wearing 3D virtual reality goggles, why, the very thought is pleasing and breathtaking at the same time. No wonder camera scientist Peter Smith said the joy in his heart had reached to heaven and to Mars. And rover vehicle scientist Henry Moore said the little robot sent her thanks to almost everyone on Earth for helping her. After decades of feeling our limitations in space, feeling the pull of gravity on our best hopes, the vehicle called Sojourner has carried us with her. Sojourner doesn't have to thank us for our support. It's the other way around. Tonight, a progress report on a new era in space. First, ABC's Bill Blakemore.
We're on Mars. Not just some computer-driven gadgetry, but we are on Mars. The technology's so advanced now that those cameras and sensors are a 119 million-mile extension of our nervous system that allowed us to just look around up there today.
In essence, you are there. You're looking through the eyes of our camera, and you're exploring Mars along with us.
It's not just sight. We could reach down and touch that lunchbox-sized rough rock with the tip of a metal nose that's even better than our nose, because it can sniff the very elements the rock is made of, carbons or manganese or gold, whatever it finds.
Tell me why I love you like I do.
So human has the little rover become that when the sun rises on it, the scientists wake it up with music from home as if it were a shuttle astronaut. But it's not only the scientists who are in heaven. Via the internet, many around the world are there. With way over 100 million hits already, the Pathfinder website has become the most popular in the web's short history.
And finally, proof that our rover has nestled up and kissed affectionately Barnacle Bill.
It all seems so accessible that the rocks have those nicknames. Barnacle Bill, with barnacle-like bumps. Flat Top, hulking Yogi Bear. The dark rock on the top of the ridge looks like a sofa, so they call it the couch. They're like a new gang of quirky friends, each a character, which makes the geologists ecstatic because they had wanted a variety of rocks.
I'm in hog heaven looking at these pictures from Mars.
They chose this landing site because it appeared to be where an ancient flood might have washed many kinds of rocks down into this one place. It looks like they were right.
Here is an obstacle several kilometers across that has a tail behind it. That tail is debris that was deposited as the flow went around the obstacle, and there's evidence here of the scouring and redeposition of debris by the flood.
They even found deep ripples, such as a flash flood would make on the ground. A powerful flood of water that could lift and stack these boulders against each other.
Compare those to the floods that were occurring this last spring in the northern United States, and the floods were 2 orders of magnitude, 100 times bigger. The depth was probably hundreds of meters.
Teachers are going to feed on this for years to come.
Holy cow, what a flood. You can see this identical, that teardrop shape, just like we see on Mars. And look at
We're seeing so much that we can compare to things on Earth. A white mark down the face of the peak on the left.
One on the left, there's a little white streak that's coming down. It's been called something like a ski slope. I have no idea what that is. The one on the right, instead of showing kind of a vertical ski slope coming down, shows terracing. And those are like big blocky layers that probably were left by the flood.
Terracing like the famous sediment layers visible in the walls of the Grand Canyon. And this exciting evidence of water, crust apparently broken by the airbags, such as the crust left by a drying puddle of salt water.
It appears to be these crusts of salt or other kinds of aggregates of material, something like you see if you go walking out in Death Valley or a dry playa lake bed. What that means is maybe there was standing water there.
The weather, Pathfinder reports, is understandable, like a cold winter day on Earth, up to 8 degrees Fahrenheit, winds gusting from the south for a wind chill down to 30 below.
Weather today is exactly the same as the weather yesterday.
What's happened is that for the first time ever, we can now experience another world not all that different from our own.
Mars is the most Earth-like planet in the solar system besides Earth. It's a place where you can imagine yourself standing there and seeing the beautiful red sky and the mountains off in the distance. And
the site is everything we hoped it could be. We're finding more and more surprises as we look in detail at the rocks through the terrain, and we're seeing some wonderful, wonderful surprises.
It's hard not to imagine stepping into these pictures. NASA revealed today it's already designing its first astronaut mission to Mars. But in their minds, these scientists seem to be on their way already, as you could tell by this music video they produced today.
My imagination and my spirit has been swept up into this mission. I just can't contain myself into numbers anymore. I have to put it into feelings. All through the history of mankind, we've moved to cover as much surface as is available to us, including sailing across the oceans to the New World and flying to the moon 25 or 30 years ago, and now on to Mars.
With the help of these scientists, we already are on Mars. They seized our imaginations and took us there with that astonishing, risk-taking arrival. They now know it bounced at least 16 times. Tomorrow, they'll start telling us what the rocks and soil are made of, which may include some chemical building blocks of life. Soon after, they promise a virtual ride among those rocks on the back of the little rover itself. This is Bill Blakemore for Nightline.
And when we come back, we will have the chief project scientist for the Pathfinder mission, a prominent astrophysicist, and we'll have the first look at the latest photos from Mars.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by Ford Motor Company.
To you, it looks like this. To a car thief, it looks like this. And to our Ford Motor Company engineers, it looks like one of the most powerful anti-theft devices ever. Only this key sends an electronic code to the engine before it will ever start. So it looks like your new Mercury Sable will be just where you parked it. Ford. Quality is job one.
AT&T is trying to make things simple.
What about all these other long-distance offers?
Well,
one says put stickers on the phone.
Another says pay a dime sometimes.
AT&T can make it simple.
One says you save up to 52%, but compared to what?
Yeah, just call AT&T.
And what happens?
They'll show you how you won't save big over what AT&T's already got.
Really?
Sounds simple.
Yes.
That's exactly what he's saying.
What, now you're on his side?
It's not about sides.
Don't start with me.
I believe they had problems before this. Simple, competitive prices for home or business.
Tomorrow, an ABC News investigation. If you want to lose weight, wait. Major news and a major warning about the largest selling prescription diet pills on World News Tonight.
It's just not summer until you drive into Sonic. Day or night, it's a great place to people watch. I like to see their faces when they try one of our new fresh fruit slushes. There's our lemon slush with fresh sun-kissed lemons, our lemon berry slush, and our fresh lime slush. They are totally fresh and very, very cold. I recommend you drink them slowly.
We've been having fun all summer long.
When your office is on the road, getting to your clients safely and on time is crucial.
As a sales rep traveling Middle Tennessee and on the road every day, I need to know when I go out what the weather conditions are like. I depend on News 2 and Storm Tracker 2000 to get accurate weather reports. I can't imagine starting my day without Storm Tracker 2000. It zooms in on your neighborhood. You can see if the storm is right there where you are. You need to watch News 2 because they're the only station that has Storm Tracker 2000.
Storm Tracker 2000, only on News 2, where coverage comes first.
Joining us from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, Richard Berenson. He is professor of physics and astronomy at American University. And Matt Golombek, the chief project scientist for the Mars Pathfinder mission. Dr. Golombek, our congratulations. Join the others.
Thank you very much.
You did say in that little clip in Bill Blakemore's report there that I saw that we are getting more and more surprises. What surprises you the most?
Just how different it looks from either of the two Viking sites. We've, of course, been to the surface of Mars twice in 76, 78, and we landed at two places, and we got a very strong view of the Martian surface based on those two landing sites. And this place is completely different. It's like a whole new world has opened up to our eyes.
Well, let's take a look at that world. We've got that panorama that you all had set up by putting the stills together and the camera moving on around. If you look down to the right there, you'll see the little rover Sojourner. And we're going to stop the camera as we move it along here before long, and we'll see that clump of rocks.
Yeah.
What does that tell you about the possibility that there was flooding here?
Well, those are what we call imbricated. They're stacked up boulders, and they're partially tilted over in the direction of the floodwaters. And those are classic symptoms or depositional bars, if you will, in catastrophic flood zones. And they're quite common in Iceland and other places as well. So that's rather diagnostic.
What's become of all the water?
Well, it flooded from the highlands to the northern lowlands. The highlands are a couple of kilometers higher than the northern lowlands. The water was unstable. Something shook it up, and it all came flashing out in a very short period of time. Enormous volumes of water, roughly the water or the volume in all the Great Lakes put together. And it's disappeared into the northern lowlands. It's either been frozen in place, or it's been cold trapped back in the poles, or somehow reabsorbed into the lower ground.
Let's keep this camera moving, and if you look off in the distance, this strikes me. This is something very new from what we've seen before. It's some topography. Those are the Twin Peaks. How far away are they?
We think they're of order a kilometer or so. We don't know exactly. It'd be nice to have the stereo ranging, which we just haven't quite got ready together. But judging by where we think we've landed, they're of order a kilometer away.
Now, is that Barnacle Bill sitting right down there?
That's Barnacle Bill, and we got the alpha proton X-ray spectrometer measurement just to the right side of that rock in the less dusty part, which of course was preferred by the geologist.
And the larger rock is Yogi?
That's Yogi, and where we are, let's see, we're not there now. We will uplink the sequence very shortly, and it will drive the rover through that sand flat you see in the middle there. It will do a series of soil mechanics experiments where one rover wheel actually digs into the soil. We image that from the lander and from the rover, and the wheel tracks from the rover. And then we'll drive it close to Yogi and take uncompressed forward stereo images from the rover to get a real close-up look to see what Yogi really looks like.
Now, Sojourner has already had its close encounter with Barnacle Bill, and you're going to be processing that information.
Yes, we've gotten a first look at it, and we're very happy to report it looks beautiful. None of the noise problems that we had in our first soil measurement appear to have carried over, and that noise has been subtracted out quite easily. And we see clear the peaks of the various elements, silicon, magnesium, and so on, iron, through it. And we're trying to get the abundances right now and should have that available tomorrow.
Dr. Berenson, you have been watching all of this with great interest. What do you think?
I think it's one of the most stunning things that I've ever seen. It's really one of the great hallmarks of our time. The data are coming in here at JPL, but they're reverberating around the world.
This is interesting to I suppose, everyone, Dr. Berenson, because it was done rather cheaply, all in all.
Well, it cost about the same as producing the film Waterworld. Yes, it was relatively inexpensive. The country, I think, can afford that, and look at what we're getting. We've already got the enormous number of hits on the internet website. There are going to be millions more. What it suggests is that the people across this country, around the globe, are fascinated. It crosses all demographic lines, and I think the reasons are quite clear. We've landed on Mars. We're living our dreams.
It's really amazing. We do have a recent number on our total website hit just today, just on Monday, since people went back to work, and we've reached 100 million hits today alone. So everybody's back at work, and they're working on their computers, and no doubt they have the Pathfinder website up.
What do you think it is, Dr. Golombek, that seems to have captured our imagination? So not since man was on the moon for the first time have we had this kind of reaction.
It's amazing. We never foresaw that it would have this sort of impact that it has. It's real. You know, we're all real people working as hard as we can to make something really interesting happen. And to see other people react to it is just terrific for us.
The building blocks of life, might you see that in this rock?
Basically, that's carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen. The APX cannot measure hydrogen. It's unlikely we would have carbon and nitrogen in a rock like that. It's dark. It may be an igneous rock, in which case it would be dominated by the silicon, the magnesium, iron, and so on. Oxygen. We will certainly see oxygen. That's the most common rock type on the Earth, or the most common element on the Earth, and likely very common on Mars,
Just to be clear, the APX is the spectrometer that measures all of this?
Yes, it sends out alpha and proton particles. It measures their reactions with the surface and sets up X-ray reactions, which are all measured in the sensor head.
Well, it's impressive, gentlemen. I want to ask you to stay with us for just one moment. We'll come back and we will talk about the fact that this is only the beginning, not only on this mission, but in missions to come. There is a lot more ahead. Stay with us.
Ever notice that a year goes by quicker these days? Which means the weeks go by quicker. And the days. The minutes.
Introducing the all-new supercharged Regal GS. No other sports sedan packs in this much fun, power, and standard safety features into your life so you can get everything done.
Hey, when life is fast.
Life is good!
The all-new Regal GS by Buick. Official car of the supercharged family.
This year, you will find something you never thought possible. It's big. Really big. So ask your doctor about prescription Zyrtec. Or call toll-free to see how this prescription medicine may help you.
PI asked Mary Chapin Carpenter, Brian Haley, Peter Ruff, and Marion Ross, is Mars worth the money when it doesn't even have cable?
Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher, coming up on ABC Late Night.
I looked over the horizon and discovered the new world.
There is a revolution beginning in Tennessee public schools.
I emailed my friends in Stockholm.
Brought by a partnership of Nashville Chamber of Businesses, the state school system, and Vanderbilt University.
In that very first meeting, they said, get yourself a dream.
A virtual school for teachers, tuition-free, that prepares them to guide their students into the new technological age.
Bernoulli's principle.
The equipment was donated, so was the expertise. The result is remarkable.
The guy from the Space and Rocket Center gave me some very cool ideas on airfoil design.
This revolution in education can't succeed without the support of the business community. You and your business can help in any of 42 such programs by joining Vanderbilt Partnerships in Education.
What did you do in school today, honey?
I learned how to fly.
The biggest athletic shoe sale of the year is at Just for Feet this week. $19.99 blowout. Our warehouses are jam-packed with your favorite name brands. $19.99 blowout. Sandals, boots, basketball, baseball, tennis, cross-training, aerobic. $19.99 blowout. Famous names like Reebok, Converse, and many more. $19.99 blowout. Values that were up to $89.95. $19.99 blowout. This week at Just for Feet, where the 13th pair is free.
We are back. The topic is Mars, and here's how fast this information is pouring out. We've just gotten some pictures in that the chief project scientist for the Mars mission has not even seen. We've just shown them to him. Matt Golombek, let's have a look at these pictures. What do you see here? This is from Pathfinder?
No, this is, from the lander itself. This is the stereo imager, and you're beginning to see the textures and colors and forms of some of the soil materials, the whiter soil you see and the others. Here you see some of that material that Dr. Malin spoke about earlier with some of the really whitish crusts that look like they're on the surface. Look at the textures and kind of shadings that you see there. Here we see very, very small rocks, which is very unusual. We never saw really tiny rocks at the Viking sites. In fact, they even tried to pick them up and they broke into little clods. And so we're seeing a much different rock distribution than we had at either of the two Viking sites. Here's a lighter colored rock with either dust on the top or some other kind of a material on top. And again, the shadings and patterns in the soil that you see indicate at least 2 or 3 different soil types just within that one view.
Interesting that you are expecting Sojourner to travel for only about a week or so, but you really hope that it'll go on for months. Is that right?
Oh yeah, there's nothing consumable on board that would preclude us from operating for a very long time. We have a remarkably healthy spacecraft. Everything is looking just terrific on board, and as I've said many times, I really don't want another job for at least a year.
Here's our last picture for you to take a look at.
Yeah, that's a close-up of some of the soil. That shows almost a dune or a drift material in the back. That's very interesting because it indicates either deposition by aeolian, wind or water, and we'd certainly like to cut into that material with our rover wheel to try to see the size, and that would tell us how it was deposited.
You're not going to be able to do that, or you are?
Oh, well, I don't know exactly where that one was from, but that's certainly in the plan, is to go and look at these different soil types, these fines as we call them, in some detail with the rover, to get alpha proton X-ray spectrometer measurements on each of the different soil types, and to do soil mechanics experiments in them to determine the size of the materials in them and their competency and how cohesive or stuck together they are.
You guys are going to be pretty busy for quite a few months to come, aren't you?
I certainly hope so.
Dr. Berenson, it's interesting. Now, Sojourner is not going to be alone there on Mars for very long.
No, it is not. There's going to be another American spacecraft arriving in September, and then every 2 years thereafter there will be still more.
Now, tell us about the next one that's coming.
Well, the next one is a surveyor of the entire planet, and then after that there will be more robotic devices. We have launch windows which arise every 26 months, and so every 26 months going out for the next decade there will be a whole flotilla of craft. The Japanese have one going as well. So what we're going to find is a great deal more about Mars in the next year or two than we've ever known in all of prior history.
And these vehicles actually are, I mean, I shouldn't say vehicles, but these space objects are not only going to Mars, they're going to other places as well. This is a solar system exploration that is.
Well, absolutely, and we already have a craft, of course, at Jupiter. We have one that'll be going to Saturn later this fall.
And you are going to be sticking with Mars, I gather, Dr. Golombek. That's quite a handful right there.
I certainly hope I have my hands full for a year or so.
Now, as these next ones come in, are you going to be targeting different areas across the planet?
Yeah, our next target for Pathfinder, if you're asking about the rover specifically, is to go up to Yogi and try to get an alpha proton X-ray spectrometer of that. And then we have our eyes set on Casper, which is just farther around there. It's a sort of a lightish, whitish colored rock that looks very intriguing. So
actually, I was talking about the next visitations that you have planned.
Oh yes, yeah. In '98, there'll be a lander that goes to the South Polar layer deposits to look at whether there's a climatic record that's held within them, as well as an orbiter that looks at overall composition of the planet. In 2001, there's a long-term a rover that should traverse kilometers, tens of kilometers, we hope, catch samples perhaps for an eventual sample return in 2005, and a subsequent rover in 2003. So we have a very exciting Mars exploration program planned, And nobody could be more pleased than those of us who are watching Pathfinder unfold.
Dr. Berenson, you know that laymen do like to focus on two things. One, could there possibly be life, or was there life on Mars? And two, could it possibly be true that humans could walk on Mars one day?
Well, there could well be life on Mars. What you require are three ingredients: organic material, heat, and water. We believe that all three may well be in Mars, and therefore there could be fossilized life forms that we will find under the surface of Mars. We don't know for sure. As for humans going there, it's not a question of if, it's only a question of when and who. It will happen. In fact, I believe the first astronaut, the first human being to walk on Mars is now already a living, undoubtedly in this country, probably a high school or college student, so study real well.
Dr. Golombek, I may as well get you to stick your neck out a little bit here. Do you think you'll find the sufficient building blocks of life there on Mars?
I think we pretty well know they exist there in one form or another. We know there's oxygen, we know there's carbon, we know, well, that we're fairly sure there's nitrogen and so on. The form is there. We have abundant amount of water. It's just frozen or in a gaseous state. So, you know, if we could warm Mars up, it'd be a pretty nice winter home.
Gentlemen, I thank you very much for talking to us. Dr. Golombek, our congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll be back in just a moment.